At this time, I would ask the Dr. James Vaught of South Carolina, the chair of the Resolutions Committee, to please come forward.
Your report of the Resolutions Committee is as follows. Proposed Resolution A, Drug Evaluation and Classification Program. The status is it is submitted to the Resolutions Committee. Mr. Speaker, as chair of the Resolutions Committee, I'm referring Resolution B, Response to Guarantee of Line of Credit, to the House of Delegates without recommendation from the committee.
To clarify for the House, since the Resolutions Committee has brought Resolutions B to the House without recommendation, if a delegate wishes to have this resolution discussed, it would require a delegate to make that motion and have it seconded. Microphone 2.
Oh, is that on? There we go. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Michael Rosenblatt, Washington, D.C. I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution B as it is written.
Is there a second? Microphone 3.
Mr. Speaker, Stephen Garrett, North Carolina. I second that motion.
There has been a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Microphone 8.
Mr. Speaker, Stan Andrus from Minnesota. I'm curious if the authors would respond as to whether or not the end game of this resolution is real or whether it's just sour grapes.
Microphone 2.
Mr. Speaker, this resolution has been introduced to determine whether the AOA Board of Trustees not only, of course, as we heard, legally has the authority, perhaps ethically has the authority to make the decision that was made, to commit $2 million in the end of our dues money. As we've heard today, money is tight, to an organization that is separate from the AOA without any approval from this House of Delegates is our concern. What we are asking is not necessarily a withdrawal of this, but perhaps an adoption of, or for future plannings, some concern about approval by the House of Delegates of committed sums of these totals.
Any other discussion? Microphone 1.
Point of clarification, the motion was to adopt this resolution. Is this consideration as to whether this would be introduced? If you could clarify that for me.
No.
My name is
It is before the House to adopt because the Resolution Committee did bring it to the House. Therefore, it only requires a motion and a second to actually be addressed by the House.
John Roston, California.
Thank you. Further discussion. Microphone number 5.
Mr. Speaker, Jim Sander for Louisiana. I think everybody in this House knows what's going on. I think this motion is counterproductive. I think it's divisive. I think it's unnecessary. And I would encourage my delegates to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sandifer. Microphone number 5 again.
David Hayes, Optometric Physicians of Washington. I'm a little confused as to what the resolution is trying to accomplish. The action statement says that the House of Delegates would disapprove of an action of the Board of Trustees. Well, that's fine, but what is that going to actually do long term? It seems, and one of our delegates pointed this out at lunch today, is that if the question really is whether the Board of Trustees should make certain financial commitments up to a certain level without this body's approval, then that is the issue that should be brought to the House of Delegates. That would make probably a bylaws change. So, to me, that would be an appropriate question, and board certification would have nothing to do with it. So, in its form, I would say this House shouldn't approve it. If Washington, D.C. would like to bring something else before the House next year, that might be something else.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Microphone 8, distinguished past president.
Mr. Speaker, Joel Byers, State of Georgia, past president. I'd just like to remind this House that the fiscal implications to the budget would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000, so that should be taken into account.
I think, Dr. Byers, that was a different resolution, actually. There's a future resolution coming where there is some fiscal implication, I believe. Microphone number 1.
Like I need a microphone.
Yes, you do.
Harway Marsden, California. Just a point of clarification. It seems to me earlier we ratified the actions of the board. Therefore, doesn't this go counter to action we already took earlier in this House?
Tom? Yes. Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, there has been a motion and a second, a majority vote required. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. No. Motion fails. Dr. Vaught.
Mr. Speaker, as Chair of the Resolutions Committee, I am referring Resolution C, call for full accounting, to the House of Delegates without recommendation from the committee.
Again, microphone 2.
It's me again.
Please repeat, just for the record.
Yeah, sure. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Michael Rosenblatt, Washington, D.C. Mr. Speaker, in light of Dr. Hopping's presentation earlier today, where he specifically addressed board certification accounting, although perhaps, as he indicated, some new information there for the first time, we do feel this perhaps sufficiently meets the intent of the resolution, and we actually wish to withdraw that at this point.
Wait a second. Okay, I see no one else at a microphone, so therefore this would be withdrawn by the sponsor. And Dr. Vaught.
Mr. Speaker, as Chair of the Resolutions Committee, I'm referring Resolution D, call for determination of legality, to the House of Delegates without recommendation from the committee.
Microphone 2.
And microphone 2 again. Dr. Michael Rosenblatt, Washington, D.C. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution D.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. Dr. Vaught.
Okay. Proposed Resolution E, holding AOA reps to ABO accountable. The status is it is submitted to the Resolutions Committee. Proposed Resolution F, affiliate legal and legislative defense fund, withdrawn by sponsor. Proposed Resolution G, antitrust lawsuit assessment fund balance, withdrawn by sponsor. Proposed Resolution H, support of optometry cares, submitted to Resolutions Committee. Mr. Speaker, this concludes the report of the Resolutions Committee.
For today.
For today.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Vaught. Thank you. At this time,